Oh, yeah. Okay. Barbecue fam, what's going on? What is going on? Would you guys think I forgot about you? No, impossible. We're back with another pod. This is a dense one. We're talking warmers, specifically warmers. There's really two topics. We're going to touch on how do we know when a brisket's done, because we really can't talk about warmers and how to utilize warmers until we understand, like, how do we know when a brisket's done? And then past how do we know when a brisket's done, we're going to talk about hot holding barbecue, specifically brisket. And for the purpose of this discussion, I think I'm just going to mostly talk about brisket because brisket has the highest ceiling of ROI when it comes to hot holds, to warm holds. Brisket really, it benefits the most from it. So on any given service day, I hold all proteins in a warmer at some point in its life cycle. But when it comes to brisket, like there's a specific way to do this. Let me wet my whistle. Okay. If you guys are new here, which don't judge me. If you guys aren't new here, you know what that elixir is. That's the elixir. There is no alcohol. It's espresso and Diet Coke. You don't need a Zim pouch. You don't need heater sticks. You don't need anything. Just rip espresso and Diet Cokes. I promise you, you'll be locked in. If you're new here, I ask nothing of you. You just sit back, relax, enjoy the podcast. If you like barbecue, if you're trying to get better at this barbecue thing, I don't know, if you're on a commute or you're taking a shower or you're doing cardio at the gym or whatever you're doing, just throw this bad boy on in the background. If you're eating dinner, this is just great dinner content. So it's great anytime content, but you get what I'm saying. If you're new here, I ask nothing of you. If you're not new here, come on, family, you know what the deal is. And welcome back. We got a lot to talk about, so I don't want to waste our time. I do want to say one thing. There's no fee for this podcast other than interaction. And I know that's going to go in one ear and out the other, but I'm telling you, the only reason that I continue to do this podcast and talk about barbecue deep like this is based on the interaction. So if you guys don't interact with the video, meaning drop a comment, like it, if my back-end analytics show me that this podcast is not worth my time, it's not worth your time, we just can't keep doing it. So I'm going to keep doing these podcasts as long as folks are interacting. But if the interacting drops off, it's just going to be my signal that, hey, probably not worth the effort. With that said, let's talk about this because this is a big topic and I get this question all the time. And if you are familiar, the last podcast, I think both of the most recent two podcasts have been almost an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours long. This won't be nearly as long because we don't have as many topics to hit. However, they're dense topics. So I'm going to try to peel the onion back a little bit. And then just so you guys know, I am going to do a deep dive video on this in like real time, show you how to know when to pull a brisket, hot holding, all that stuff. So if you are wondering, well, what do I comment? I don't comment on YouTube videos, so I wouldn't know what to say. Here's a good start, a thought for you. If you care about this topic and you know that I'm going to be doing a video on it, let me know what you would like to see because in real time right now, I'm building out the format of the video and I'm getting everything compiled. So my point is that I can't hit all this in the pod, but we are going to go deep here a little bit because I get asked this question all the time. Marcus, how do I know when to pull my brisket? And on the surface, it's pretty easy. Like everyone says, pull your brisket at 203 degrees. But can I pose a question to you to help you deconstruct that a little bit? If you are barbecue has absolutes and you absolutely have to pull at 203. Let me ask you a few questions. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I just want you to answer them as a pro 203 pull person, a PPP, as a P cubed. Tell me this. Where do you temp your brisket to tell you it's ready to go off the smoker at your 203 temperature? Where do you temp it? That's my question number one. That's a rhetorical question. I just want you, if you are I pull briskets are done at 203. If you're that kind of person, okay, I'll accept that. But tell me this, where do you pull your temps? Let me ask you this sub question to the sub question. Do you pull multiple temperatures or do you just pull one temperature? And then my final question is, if you do pull multiple temperatures, are they all the same? Now, I think I know the answer to a lot of those. I'd probably know the answer. And the answer is probably yes, you pull multiple temperatures, and no, they're not the same. And if you have gotten 203 across the board by jabbing all over your brisket, go buy a lottery ticket, because that never happens. What's my point? My point is we got to deconstruct the briskets are done at 203 degrees a little bit, because there's too many variables. Like if I pull a temp with my thermopin in the point and in the lean through any course of the brisket cook, the temps are going to be probably different. So we have to adjust accordingly. So that's the blanket statement. But let's go broad view really quick. Broad view real quick on the video. When are we pulling briskets? We're already starting to walk into that territory. And I want to pull the veil back a little bit on kind of my processes and what I've learned, but also high level, we need to cover warmers. But we can't get to the warmers until we understand what are we looking for towards the end of a brisket cook, because that's going to better dictate how we'll utilize our warmer. A warmer is just a tool, guys. And if you don't have a warmer, you have probably an oven. So ovens. And if you don't have a warmer or an oven, you probably have some kind of cooler. There is a way to hold brisket for longer than an hour and a half on your countertop in a warmer environment. There is a way to do that. And any matter of time is better than no matter of time when it comes to warm holding briskets. So I'm just trying to give you guys the confidence that this does not require commercial grade material. What I will say to that point, though, is I literally just bought a commercial grade warmer for $50. Now, I know that might be a unicorn, but I keep my eye out all the time. So I guess my point is, like, don't knock it. Don't knock it until you set your marker at, like, I want to own a warmer one day. Great. While you're saving for or looking for or waiting for it, let's educate you so that when you get it, you understand what's happening. I'm a firm believer that every backyard warrior should have a warmer. I have links to residential warmers, a few $100s. I'll link it in the description. I think it's by Vever. It's a great piece of equipment. What I'm trying to instill into you guys right now is I'm trying to sell you on the fact that I think warmers make the difference, especially when it comes to brisket. I used a warmer for the first time a few years back for a 4th of July event. I'm not going to tell the whole story because I have a dedicated video on this. Just look back in the portfolio. But I had not used a warmer prior to that time, and then I used the warmer just out of necessity. I had to. I just had too many proteins I was cooking, and everything was just I was juggling too much. And so I rented a warmer, not even on the basis of knowing and make my barbecue better. I just rented it because I was like, if I don't get meat off of my 500-gallon smoker and into something, I'm not going to be able to cook 30 slabs of ribs and 15 briskets or 10 briskets or however many briskets I was doing. So I had to do it that way. On the day of service, I was watching those slices come off the block, and I was just like, what in the world is happening with this brisket? Like, they just looked unbelievable. And then it dawned on me later that, oh, maybe it was something with the warmer. So, Let's start to dive into this some more. When it comes to knowing when your brisket's done, guys, there's some core competencies you need to master. Now, when it comes to barbecue, there's like two camps. There's the camps of the absolutes. You have to cook at 275. You have to use clean smoke. You have to leave your damper wide open. You have to pull a brisket at 203. Blah blah blah. There's that camp. Just, I don't know. They are anchored to that. Then there's the camp of, like, I don't know, free range. Like, they're free range. My uncle would be a good example. If my uncle's watching this, you know who you are. Love him to death. He's part of the reason why I even know what I know about barbecue. But he's an OG, and he's just a down home Alabaman, Southern as it gets. Most people don't even know what my uncle's saying half the time he's talking. He's a legend in the barbecue ether. At least how I deem it. He's a legend to me because I don't know if I've ever seen my uncle with a thermometer. ever. He just rips. Doesn't matter. Fire figures it out. Meat's doing what the meat's doing. He's just going free range, total free range. I fall somewhere in between. I'm a firm believer that in any discipline, rules exist for you to learn them and master them. And then part of mastery is knowing when and how to break the rules. So that's kind of barbecue to me. Why I'm telling you that is back to the questions I was posing you. If 203 is an absolute when it comes time to pulling your brisket, well, then where are you getting your 203 temperature from? And then what do you do then if your point is reading 190, but your lean is reading 175? Well, what do you do? What do you do when your point is reading 205 and then your lean reads 195? If you're looking for 203, tell me then what you're doing, because, sorry guys, my elixir is giving me the hiccups. My goodness. What do you do then? Well, let me help you out. The point in me trying to say that is just to chip away at the absolute just a little bit, to tell you guys you need to control the variables. You need to control the variables. When you go to eat Texas barbecue at some of the top joints, the quality is a given, guys. And I think a lot of times we conflate, like backyarders, we conflate quality and consistency because they're not the same thing. And they're not the same amount of work. They require different energy units at different times of the cook, depending upon the protein you're cooking. And so when you go to Texas and you eat at Burnt Bean, they have, or anywhere. I use Burnt Bean because they're number one, but anywhere. The point that I'm making is, at this point in time, quality is a given, and it is a variable that barbecue restaurants have brought a level of control to. The quality is fixed. They're buying the same relatively. I mean, each steer is going to be different, but they're buying from the same beef purveyor, and they're getting the same upper 2/3 choice or the same prime or the same American Wagyu or whatever their beef quality is. They're getting the same beef from the same purveyor, the same ribs from the same purveyor, the same recipes, the same processes. So they're able to dial in those variables to where they're able to go to bed at night and know, I'm not really going to lack on the quality. What they're chasing is the consistency. It's the consistency that becomes choppy. Us as backyard guys, we know this just as well as anyone. You're only as good as your last brisket. I'm a firm believer in that. You're only as good as your last brisket. And we know the pain of cooking a jam up brisket and you rocked it like it was just fire. And deep down in your soul, you know you don't know how you did that. You're like, I watched 15 videos. I fought my fire all night. I pulled my brisket and temped it 16 different places. I have no idea if this brisket's going to be good. And then you serve it and everyone's blown away, and then you're blown away, and then you're like, I don't know how I did that. And what's scarier than that? Teeing up another brisket knowing you don't know how you did the last one. So we can solve for this though, guys. We can solve for this. And how we solve for this is the introduction of a warmer. So this is me moving us into the topic. I mean, we've been in the topic, but this is me moving us literally into the smoker, because we have to talk about it. Introducing a warmer helps bring consistency, because we're not solely reliant on pulling our briskets at the exact done temperature. Void of a warmer, you don't have the temperature play that you would with a warmer. I'll explain that in a second. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have a warmer and you're not hot holding, then you fall to the mercy of your service time. And that is a pickle. It's a pickle, guys. It can be a pickle. Depending upon how many people you're serving or how many proteins or sides you're making, depending upon when everyone's eating, you can find yourself in a bit of a pickle, knowing that you're cooking multiple cuts of meat that come off at different times with no real way to preserve their internal temperature. Introduce a warmer, now you're able to buy yourself 12 to 20 hours of passive rest. Passive rest. If you cook a brisket with no warmer and you want to serve it at dinner time, you're going to have to backtrack 2 hours, thereabout. And if you've done this, then you should resonate with this. Dinner's at 5. I know that every barbecue person tells me that it should rest on my countertop for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. Okay. So if I'm eating at 5, I know my brisket has to come off at 3 so it can rest until service. So if I'm cooking a 12-hour brisket and it comes off at 3 p.m., I need to go back 12 hours. So that shows you the time you need to get your brisket on. Like how I don't care who you are. How unenjoyable is it to start barbecuing at 1 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, and you run all day? Like it's a lot of work. What the warmer allows you to do is dictate when you cook proteins and when you serve proteins. Not even to mention the fact that it enhances the quality of the brisket because a brisket gets hammered for 12 to 15 hours in a smoker. A brisket comes off of a smoker, it's rowdy. A brisket right off of the smoker is rowdy. It's bubbling and it's oozing and it's making sounds and it's all barked up. And I mean, it's just like scary until you give it time. It goes from being like grouchy to, if you put it in a warmer overnight and then you pull it out the next day, it's like this beautiful work of art. It almost like turns into a different brisket, literally. Because you give each you give each, I guess proponent's a good word. You give each, no, it's not a good word. I'm back and forth. Snip, snap, snip, snap. Some of you guys will know where that's from. You give each piece of the brisket time to do what it individually needs to do over 12 hours. That's the downside of not being able to hot hold, because each individual aspect of the brisket needs to do something different. The bark has to settle in differently than the fat has to redistribute across the intra of the brisket. So the bark is doing something than the internal of the brisket. The fat cap even is doing something different than the bark is doing, but it all works together harmoniously to give you that jiggly end product that we all know. And when you look at that slice, that one slice on your hand is the final product. It is uniform. It is locked in form fashion. It's all one. But that happens because you give it time. Have you ever cooked a great brisket and it read 203, but you sliced it a couple hours later and you're just like, it's missing something? I mean, the flavor's good. It's tender. It's there. It's just not totally there. You can't really pinpoint it. That little difference is the warmer. Okay? So let's back up now and let's talk about the different ways that we can pull briskets off. And I'll note two things. Again, one, I am building, like I said, in real time, I'm building a video to show you guys this. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to show you. I'm talking about it on the podcast. One, because this podcast is home to some of the biggest barbecue nerds on planet Earth. That's literally you and I on this thing together. So this is just a safe place for a collective of the niche to come and hang out with each other. So that's why I do this podcast. The other reason I do this podcast is because I get yelled at by the general populace for doing 2-hour masterclasses where I talk about all this in a video cooking brisket. I guess not. I don't know. I don't want to say I get yelled at. That's dramatic. But there's certainly comments where people are like, dude, you're going too far into the weeds. Like, we don't need all this. So I understand. I'm not saying those people are wrong. I'm saying that I understand that there's a certain time and a certain place for certain information. This right here is where I'm able to not be rushed by time. I know that you guys that are listening, you are a more patient type of person who cares about the information. So I'm able to deliver it. I'm just saying this so you guys know I am going to package a lot of this information up in a video. So let me know, what is it that you would care about seeing? Second's not important. That's the point that I wanted to make. I combined the two, is that I'm going to unpack this. Be patient with me. We're going to get in the weeds a little bit, but just know I'm not able to go as deep as I can because I got another video coming up, but we'll nerd out a little bit because this stuff is important. When it comes to cooking brisket, void of a warmer, you have a couple options when pulling. I'm going to talk about some absolutes for me. So these are rules that I have that I do not break. I don't break them because using them provides me consistency from brisket to brisket and brisket cook to brisket cook. One of the rules that I don't break is that I have what I call my data aggregation temp set. It's not even that. That sounds more important than it is. It's a way that I pull temperatures on briskets that are the same every time. And they're the same in process and location on the brisket. So imagine you're looking at your smoker. You're standing at your smoker. You open the door. The brisket's there. The point is facing the firebox. The lean is facing the smokestack. That strip of the brisket that's facing you, not the top, not the bottom, the perimeter of the brisket. Not too high, not at the top of the brisket, not on the bottom, right in the middle, I pull my first temp on the lean. And this is in no particular order. The order changes based on the visual of the brisket. The lean might look like it's curling and it looks a little scary. I need that temp first. The point might look a little hotter. Maybe I'm getting a little too burnt. I need that temperature first. So the order does not matter. The process is the same. I go right in the middle on the lean side. I go up towards the point on the exact spot, right in the middle, and I go into my point. And then I go vertically, aerial shot down where the point meets the flat in the middle. I pull a temperature there, and then I go into, I take that temp, I go all the way around now to the edge, looking at the brisket, and I go right in there too. So that's 4 spots. That gives me all the data I need to know. Anything more than that, you're hurting yourself. You're going to confuse yourself. Because if you start jumping around the brisket, you will get different temperatures. And if you get different temperatures and you don't know what to do with the temperatures, it's data overload. And then you're going to start freaking out. You're going to start wigging out and you're going to go rogue. Going rogue in a brisket cook is DEFCON 1. Worst case scenario. So you allow yourself 4 temp check locations. And then to the best of your ability, enter those locations the same time. People say you don't need to go into the side. I've heard that. You don't need to go into the side, just go into the top. Yeah, I mean, sure. But going into the side, I can literally see that hole. I can see the hole. So I go into the hole at the same time. This, again, goes back into why I don't always put pepper around the side of my brisket. Pepper attracts smoke. Smoke in some places can dry out locations of the brisket. So I don't tend to put pepper around the lean of my brisket because I don't want to put extra smoke there. But more than that, for me, a lot of times I don't put pepper because I just want to see the entry of my thermometer. That's it. If I put pepper there, it barks over. It's just hard to see. So this is stuff I don't say in videos because I can't say in my just basic 15-minute cooking video because I don't have the time and the algorithm doesn't allow me to go this deep into the weeds. But I'm telling you guys, I literally sometimes don't put pepper only because I just like the sanity check of seeing the hole each time. I don't have to make a hole. And then when I open my smoker and I'm checking how my brisket's cooking, I just jump right into that same hole. Keep it PG, family. So I need a drink. So on the data aggregation temp set, we have the 4 spots. Now here's the catch. Here's the kicker. You are not doing that every single time you check your brisket temp. You don't. Please don't do that. The aerial in the middle is enough for 90% of the cook, barring what I just talked about. I want the information from the point, or I want the information from the lean, so I temp it other than just in the middle. But if I'm dialed and I'm good and my fire management is good and everything's good, I don't need the extra information. It's overkill. I don't need it all because my problem just with where I'm at cooking barbecue for this long if you start to give me extra information, now I feel obligated to do something with it. And not always do you need to do something with it. The act of cooking brisket, it's organic, it's natural. I mean, you're literally lighting wood on fire, kinetic energy, it's just moving. You don't always need to insert your humanity into what's already natural. I'm talking to you as much as I'm talking to myself. Just let the fire do what it's going to do. Control your fire from how you build it and the damper. It doesn't always require you to take a weed burner and blow all over that thing, or whatever you do. And again, I'm talking literally to myself as much as I am you. Back in the day, there were times where I would literally take on my 500 gallon, the lid to my big ash trash can, and the fire just wasn't moving how I'd want. So I'd just fan that thing for like 5 minutes and kick it all up and just get it going. And over the years, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, let the fire do what it's going to do. So I digress. More information isn't always helpful. Trust what you see, trust the feel, and then trust the temperature that you're getting. Now, what do we do with the temperatures? Now, that's the next question, moving us into the discussion. What is it that we're doing with these temperatures that we're getting? Can I help you deconstruct a little bit in this barbecue thing? I'm going to help you deconstruct some absolutes. So we talked about the absolute of 203. I didn't go fully into it because we're going to do that in a second, but I just posed the question, which laid the foundation for this first topic of where are we temping? And the question was, if 203 is the absolute, and if you are probing your brisket in different spots and each temp check is saying a different temperature, then where do you call it quits? Where do you call it good? If your lean's telling you one thing and your point's telling you a different thing, and wherever else you poked is telling you something different, if 203 is the absolute, then where are you calling it quits? That's question number one. Question number two, though, is what do we do then with the information that we're getting? And the second deconstruction I want to facilitate for you is this question. And it's going to require us to take a little bit of a long way there, but there's going to be a lot of informational golden nuggets on our journey. So work through this journey with me. The second question, we'll start with the question, and then the question is the end, and then we'll go back to the beginning. The question is, what do we do with the temperatures that we're getting? And well, yeah, that's just it. What do we do with it? Now let's go to the beginning of the journey. I have a saying. You guys, if you're not new here, you know I always say this. A proper brisket cook starts with a proper brisket trim. A proper brisket cook starts with the trim. And if you trim your brisket right, you're setting your brisket up for success. Now, can I tell you guys something that took me a while to learn? I learned way back in the day, I learned a lot of information early on from Aaron Franklin and his PBS series and basically everything he put out all the way up into his masterclass. And I want you guys to know, and I have a spicier podcast. I think it's the first one I did. Talked about Franklin. People seem to think that I was like a Franklin hater. It's not the truth. I can't form opinions on Franklin because I've not personally met him or worked for him. I do know other guys that own other restaurants that have personal experiences with Franklin. That's not for me to get into because I don't know him. I'm talking about purely from a learning standpoint. So if I can say that, let's move on from any barbecue drama. What I'm saying is I learned a lot from Franklin early on. One of the things that I learned from Franklin was wrapping your brisket in butcher paper and then rotating your brisket 180 degrees. Now, I think that he was one of the first people that I found to say that. But the early YouTube barbecue echo chamber, they took that and then they all started saying that. And so what became an absolute when people early in YouTube started teaching brisket is wrap it in butcher paper, rotated 180 degrees. But what I personally started to deconstruct on my own, which was kind of the genesis of my YouTube channel, was my wife convinced me to start the channel because I talked to her about barbecues for a decade. And I would always complain to her. And she was like, well, babe, go complain to other people. Go start a YouTube channel and go tell them what you think because I don't know what you're talking about. What I would complain to her about is the following. Okay, if I'm going to wrap my brisket in butcher paper, You don't want to wrap before the stall because the stall is your brisket evaporative cooling. So if my brisket, what's that song? My guitar gently weeps. That's the stall. Your brisket's going to profusely weep, and it's going to drain itself of moisture, trying to cool itself off. Why would I want to wrap my brisket in any enclosed environment if I know it's about to cry? I want to wrap it after it cries. That way I'm not washing my bark out. Now, I know just based on my test and data and experience, the stall finishes around 170 to 175 degrees internal, which means it starts somewhere 20 to 30 degrees before that. That puts us at about the 8-hour mark in a cook. If we got a 12-hour brisket cook, that's about the 8-hour mark is where our brisket is, somewhere in and around, somewhere out of the stall. My first deconstruction that I did, which I'm posing to you, is why then, if I'm rotating my lean on the basis of we want our lean to catch up to the point, but I'm rotating the brisket 8 hours into a cook, maybe potentially 9 hours into a cook, I'm already backwards. That's what I came to realize. I'm already backwards. Because why is my lean, why is my point outpacing the lean? Well, what you might be inclined to say is, well, because your point is facing the firebox. But guys, let's be honest. Well, that is more applicable to a big smoker, a 500 plus, what I was about to say. On a backyard smoker, I understand that logic in theory because it's a smaller cooking environment. Like the fire is literally inches away from the point. So it's cooking it faster. I understand that. But what I'm trying to say is, if we're controlling our fire right, and we're not running brutally hot fires, and we have our water pan and we have a blocking log and we're slowing the fire down with our damper, the thing should not be pacing too far. We should be cooking consistently. Now I'm going to go back to the trim here in a second because I talked about that, but I got to lay these bricks. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, I realized early on the following. This is my brisket cook. That's what I realized. I know, novel idea. But I was too worried about doing things like what everyone else was saying, but then being confused the way my brain thinks of like, if my point outpacing my lean is a problem I have to solve for, maybe I can mitigate this problem way long ago. Here's what I realized. Marcus, you don't have to wait to wrap your brisket to rotate it. If you pull the temp on your lean and your lean's 10 degrees lower than your point, just rotate it. Rotate it right there. Right there, right now, flip your brisket and keep monitoring, keep cooking. Let your lean catch up to your point and then flip it back. It's just that simple. But I was too locked into, no, you wrap it in butcher paper, you rotate it 180 degrees, and then I was always confused when it came time to pull it off, why stuff is different. Well, it's a little different because you flipped the brisket 80% into the cook. And now stuff's going to get a little uneven. Now, what was I talking about the trim? Here's the second nugget that I realized. We've always heard in barbecue, trim the decal so the brisket lays flat. It took me a while to realize we're using the wrong words for the wrong purposes. We're not trimming the decal so the brisket can lay flat. We're trimming the decal so the brisket can lay flush. And that's a difference. If this is my grate, this is a phone. If this is my grate and this is the brisket, this is flush. Sure, technically it's flat, I guess, but you remove the decal underneath so that your brisket is flush to the grate. The flat, what we're looking for when we say flat, is across the top of the brisket. And this is the nugget that's so important because it feeds into the whole saying, a proper brisket cook starts with a proper brisket trim. When we say flat, we want the we want the point to flow flat down to the lean. That's why when I teach trimming brisket, I teach to hack out that mohawk. That helps us achieve level, flat across the fat cap of our brisket. Then from there, I teach make it aerodynamic. Now we've heard that a million times. And yes, of course, you want it aerodynamic so you're not drying out parts of your brisket. So you round it, but you're also rounding it so that so that the flat takes on the same shape as the point. They're both round, and the end product in a perfect world is a perfectly symmetrical brisket. Why do we want that? If we can create a perfectly symmetrical brisket, meaning the point now is the same flatness as our lean, and our lean now is the same shape as our point, we've created one even cooking, one piece of beef that's even. So when we start cooking it, it cooks way more evenly. Did this trail make sense how we got here? So then the deconstruction I had was I went back in time and I said, oh my gosh, I was running into so many temperature variables because I was backwards many steps ago. I didn't trim aggressively enough. Then my brisket got on the smoker and I'm having all kinds of fire management issues. Then I wrapped it and I rotated it 80% into the way of the cook. And then I'm wondering why temperatures are different. But if you start to bring consistency to those variables, you'll start to realize, oh, I can actually control almost all of that to the point now. So here's the deliverable. Now, when I trim briskets and cook briskets, it is very, very rare for me to rotate a brisket. It's very rare because my brisket looks so uniform in form fashion that there are times, drop in the comments if you resonate with this. I hate saying drop in the comments. I said it on the last podcast, but I literally mean it. Like, I'm curious. Will you let me know? Have you ever had such a surgical trim on your brisket that when that bark sets, you go to look at it, you're like, wait a second, I did put the point towards a lean, right? Like it looks so uniform. And then you're like, yeah, of course I did. That uniformity, that allows your brisket to cook evenly. So when you go to pull that lean temperature, you're not 15 to 20 degrees off. You're like 5, 10 degrees off. Then you don't really have to rotate it. That, guys, that is homeostasis when it comes to cooking brisket. And that is such a lower pressure experience than being scared to remove a bunch of mohawk, being scared to make your leading lines, being scared to make your triangles, not cutting enough of the decal off, not making your brisket flat, flush, and aerodynamic. And then what's left over is literally two cuts of meat. Like this is the point and it's sitting angled to the lean. It's sitting like this because it's all uneven. And if you're curious about how to do any of that, guys, I have so many videos at this point on trimming. I just dropped a 45-minute video where I talked through this in so much detail. But I had to lay that groundwork now to move us into the heart of this topic now, which is what then, Marcus, do I do with all this? Okay, I trimmed it right. I cooked it right. I rotated it if I need to. It's pacing on time. Okay, so how then do I know when this thing is done? How do I know? We have 3 options. I'm going to move us through 3 core options. I freaking love this. I love this so much. This conversation is giving me chills. Maybe I'm just corny or a barbecue nerd. Guys, I love teaching barbecue so much. It literally has saved my life. That's a whole other topic. I actually just did a video on that. You guys should watch that too. I digress. There's 3 options we have. Option number 1 is the typical Franklin method as we know it as common people. And when I say common people, I mean we didn't work in the pit rooms at Franklin, so we don't actually literally know. We just know just based on what Franklin has told us and what we've been able to glean. So option 1 is the Franklin method. The Franklin method, as most commonly known, is you cook your brisket, And this is separate from fire management and is the damper open or is it closed and all that stuff. But you cook your brisket, and then at some point in time, you wrap it in butcher paper, you rotate it about 180 degrees, put the lean towards the firebox, you finish it out. It temps at 203. You pull it, you put it on speed racks or put it on your countertop. You let it come down to room temperature, and then you serve it. I mean, that's like his backyard version. The official restaurant version is that they let it come down in temperature at ambient temperatures on speed racks, and then it goes into a warmer set at about 135 to 140 degrees to hold until service. That's the Franklin method. I say Franklin, I mean that he just made that method common. So that is the typical kind of craft Texas barbecue restaurant, Franklin style, when to pull a brisket. Okay. Option 2 is what I would call more of a Goldie style, modern day Goldie style, which is cook it unwrapped. Then somewhere in between, probe tender, looking like maybe 195, maybe 200, maybe 203, somewhere in there, pulling batches of briskets based on their doneness, and then putting them in foil with tallow, and then determining when the brisket goes into the warmer based on its level of doneness. Johnny has a video, like, I don't know how many people watch Johnny's channel. If you guys want one of the greatest masterclasses on pulling briskets, don't listen to me talk about it. Well, why did I just blow my foot off and say that? I just shot myself in the foot with a 50 cal. Listen to me, because I feel like I'm the bridge between, a little bit, I feel like I'm one of the bridges between restaurant and then backyard, because I don't own a restaurant. So I don't own a restaurant, but I do own restaurant equipment, but I'm a backyard guy. So listen to me. But what I'm saying is, don't take just my word for it. Go listen to Johnny tell you how they do it at the restaurant. That's my point. In that video, it's just a masterclass on how they approach pulling their briskets. And in that, he details pulling briskets at different temperatures. And I mean, I'm not going to spoil the video for you guys, because you should certainly go watch it. But something I learned watching that is the following. I might have a batch of briskets, and because I know I have the warmer as one of my tools, I might pull a brisket early, expect for it to continue to gain momentum and climb in temperature. Temperature equals doneness. So the hotter, the more done. Know it's going to climb in temperature, i.e. doneness. And then when it comes time to service, I have a done brisket because I projected the arc in temperature, i.e. doneness. So that's option number 2, is you cook a brisket unwrapped, let it go through the whole process, pump the stall, let the brisket cry gently, and then pull it off your smoking apparatus based on cooker's discretion. Now, option 2 is a little bit more loose because it's based on your discretion. What does discretion look like? Well, it could look like a few things. One, it could look like, no matter how hot I make this smoker, this brisket just really isn't moving past 195 degrees. From the lean to the point to the middle. It's just, it's not moving. For me to continue to try to make this hit 203 because some YouTuber said 203 would mean now that I'm going to start drying out this brisket, because its peak is 195. It's just peaked out. Its highest quality is 195 on this smoker. So based on my discretion, I'm going to pull this off the smoker, immediately wrap it in foil, and leave it at ambient temperatures in the foil. Let it peak at whatever it's going to peak at, and then let it descend to the temperature of my warmer. In this case, call it 135. You see what happened there? You pulled it at 195. You put it in foil with tallow. You wrapped it in the foil. You let it sit at ambient temperatures, inside or outside. Ideally inside if it's cold outside, but you let it sit at room temperature and slowly start to ascend and descend, and then it goes into the warmer 1 for 1. My brisket rested down to about 135, 140 degrees internal. then it goes into a warmer at 130, 35, 140 degrees in the warmer temperature, 1 for 1. In that, you can play with that. Maybe you pull it at 195. Maybe you pull it at 197. Maybe you pull it at 200. Whatever your discretion calls for, it's on a brisket by brisket basis. The point of option 2, guys, so I can drive this point home so we can move into 3. The point of option 2 is to try to bring some consistency from each individual brisket to brisket in a batch cook, so that you're not out there for forever, and or so that you can bring some consistency across the individual briskets by pulling them, engaging them. You go watch Johnny's video. You'll see him do that in real time. And it's a better explanation because he can show you while not just telling you. And then option 3 is the following. You underpull the brisket. I just did this on my last video. I cooked a select brisket. I underpulled it because I was worried if I take it to 203, it's going to be tender, but it's going to be dry. So I tried to maintain maximum intermuscular moisture by pulling it at around 185 degrees internal, immediately putting it in foil, and immediately putting it in the hot warmer. The warmer was set at 150 degrees. I knew that if I put the brisket at 185 with all this momentum directly into the warmer, it's going to continue to carry and get tender. Now, it's not going to get 203 tender. It's just not. But it's going to get tender enough for any backyard person and their family to be happy. Why would you do option 3? There's a few reasons. 1, I pull option 3 out when the variables shift in my favor that are only controlled by God. Rain, crazy winds, pitch black darkness, or I'm just fed up, tired, and over it. that. I pull a brisket early. I immediately wrap it. I put it in a warm environment. I don't let it come down at ambient temperatures. It's going to continue to climb very slowly, but it's going to climb, and it's probably going to peak out at about another 10, maybe 15 degrees, which will put us right at 195, 200. It's a good tender. It's not totally jiggly like you'd see, but it's safe. You could do that. That's option number 3. This is, guys, in less than an hour, this is the best way that I could try to articulate to you the different options of where are we probing our brisket, what temperatures are we wanting, what do we do with that information, and then how do we know when to pull our briskets. Now, we'll round out with the warmer. Warmers, guys, they're a gift. They are just a blessing. I mean, I've talked about it, having the ability to put protein, specifically brisket, inside of a warm environment for prolonged periods of time gives you so much of your sanity back on service day, you can't even quantify it. If you're worried about you can't afford a warmer or you don't have space for one or whatever, I have a link in the description to a Vever warmer. It's a residential warmer. It's a normal, it's the size of like 2 microwaves stacked. It's not too big, not too small. It's a few $100. Save up for it, get it. It will change your life. I'll put a link to that. In relation to the warmer, I get asked all the time, what temperature do you set your warmer at? So I'll touch on it here. This is the process I follow. I like to serve barbecue at about 150 to 160 degrees. I think that's a really good eating temperature. So what I'll do is I'll set my warmer to anywhere between 135 to 140. I say 135 loosely because anything below that is no longer food safe. I've worked in food service at mass quantities. If you've dealt with a health inspector, if they come in and they see a warmer set at 135 and they temp your food and your food sitting below 135, you have issues. So if you're doing pop-ups, if you're trying to start a restaurant or whatever, I'm mostly talking to my pop-up guys because my restaurant guys, they know this. Like if you want to go sling barbecue on a street corner somewhere and you're going to do this whole resting thing, long hold, I want to drive the point home that there is no worse imaginable anxiety producing thought than the thought of getting tens of hundreds of people sick because you wanted to tiptoe the line on food safe. So I will go as low as 135 only because I trust my warmer and I've tested it. If you're not comfortable with your warmer, 140 to 145 is a comfortable holding temp. Then about an hour and a half to 2 hours before service, I'll bump my warmer temp up to about 150 to 160 degrees. That'll slowly bring my meat temperature to a good temp that will sustain service, meaning slicing my food, putting it on platters, letting people get their sauces and their whatever else, and then find their seat and then take their pictures for the gram and then finally eat my brisket. That's a good process to follow. Bump your temps. It's two separate things in a warmer though. There is the warm hold, which the idea of it is to stop the cooking process in real time. Is just freeze it. That's the opposite. But you get what I'm saying? You're literally freezing the brisket from cooking. I have seen guys try to say that brisket fat continues to render in a warmer. No, it doesn't. It does not do that. Scientifically, maybe if you're going from the stance of brisket or fat begins to render at 160 degrees, maybe. If your brisket is in a warmer at 160 degrees, maybe. But the render that you're talking about is so nominal, it's not even worth mentioning. That's not what you're getting from a warmer. So don't, I'm saying this in love, guys. If you hear someone tell you that the purpose of hot holding a brisket is to continue to render the fat, just full stop. If you're hoping a warmer renders fat in a cook, you're backwards. You should have rendered that fat on the smoker. And honestly, guys, if that's true, my question then would be, well, how much render are you talking about? Because if you're telling me that my brisket is about to continue to render for another 15 hours, that's going to change the entire way that I trim my brisket. If I have to account for essentially 24 hours of render, 12 on the smoker, 12 in the warmer. That is a variable that I don't want to have to account for. So all I'm saying is you're not rendering fat, guys. Even if that were true, which scientifically on paper maybe it is, we're below that temperature. So then what is the point? The point is to freeze the brisket in time, to stop it in real time, and to lock it in right there, exactly where it's at. Option 1. Option 2, to give it time to climb and then descend and then stop there. But the end goal is always to stop a brisket from cooking. And then 20 minutes prior to service, crank the temp ups, wake everything back up. You want to wake it back up. That's the last point, guys. You want to wake your brisket up. I have served brisket on service days where I'm feeding, over 100 people. And I forgot to bump my temperatures up. And I have noticed on the butcher block, my fat, it's chilling faster. It's the intermuscular fat on the slice is just chilling a little faster. The brisket they're not coming out as warm. That thing. So you want to make sure you're bumping the temps in enough time. The last thing I'll talk about is actually let me check my notes. I have notes. I've not looked at them one time because I never do. But let me look at this. Okay. I got the big picture. We talked about temping. We talked about pulling. We talked about hot hold temps. We talked about warmers. I'll touch this real quick, guys. If you don't have a warmer, you don't want to buy a warmer, you have an oven. There's a bunch of hacks on YouTube, on the internet, on how to recalibrate your oven. I've done this before in a pinch. I did this at a buddy's house. Wanted me to cook a brisket. I cooked a brisket, brought the brisket over, wanted to hot hold it for a long time. So I recalibrated the oven. And essentially what it does is it tells your oven that it's reading at a lower temperature than what you set it. So I'm telling you, you'll be blown away. A lot of ovens do this, and they don't have to be fancy ovens. It blew me away. You just press a series of buttons and then you can lower. So if your lowest temperature on your oven is 170, but you want a hot hold at 150, you set it down 20 degrees and your oven will actually be reading it'll be reading 170 minus 20 and it'll set your oven at that temp. So if you don't want to buy a warmer, go see if your oven can do that. You can buy about 8 hours max out of a good cooler, a decent cooler. So if you don't want to recalibrate or can't recalibrate your oven, don't want to buy a warmer, you can use a cooler. Plenty of videos on how to hot hold briskets and coolers. You'll just have to adjust your cook times and service times accordingly. And then there are the turkey warmers, which are like the individual turkey warmers. People will tell you to use those. I don't prefer those, but that's your call. The last, and I talked about the service window, wanting to bump your temps up. The last two things I want to talk about, I told myself I wasn't going to run more than an hour, so we're right about there, is bark and the softness of the bark. And then where's my other one? Venting the brisket. And they kind of go one and the same, so I'll lump them and talk about it. So when you do a no-wrap brisket, I like no-wrap brisket these days because of the bark that it yields. A Franklin style brisket wrapped in butcher paper gives you a dark bark, but it's a more mahogany bark. It's not like jet black. It's really dark, but then if you look closely, it's kind of has this foundation of mahogany. And that's because at the wrap point, there's not a lot of smoke, if any, penetration. So you kind of lock your color in for the most part. It'll take some more color just by nature of cooking it on a smoker. But for the most part, you're locking that color in right there where you wrapped it. So back in the day when I did butcher paper briskets, I would wrap more so based on color than I would internal temperature. You know you're out of the stall. Like here's an example. You're in the stall when you realize that your brisket with the drain spout on your smoker was drippy a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's just like really dripping out fat and moisture. That tells you you're in the stall. So for example, I typically don't have to pop my hood to see if I'm in the stall because when I'm cooking brisket, I'm constantly looking at my grease drain. I'm always looking at it because through the course of the stall, it's like an hour if you do it right. It's draining. So all I have to do is go walk out and look at any of my smokers about 6 to 8 hours in, look at the drain and say, oh, okay, that's draining more liquid. I'm in the stall. Then I would go to wrap it when that draining kind of stopped. My point is, wrapping brisket in butcher paper, the whole point of it is to kind of lock it in where it's at, bark-wise, color-wise, while allowing it not to take on a lot more smoke. That's why if you eat a Franklin brisket, there is smoke flavor, and it's a really clean smoke flavor, but it's a very docile smoke flavor. If you eat a Franklin brisket, it's very salty, it's beefy, but the smoke actually is an undertone. It's not the main, to me, it's not the main like, wow. It's very nuanced smoke. That's because according to him, they mostly run clean fires and they utilize butcher paper. Not wrapping gives you a smokier brisket. People will say brisket stop taking smoke at a certain point, smoke flavor. I don't know if I believe that, because if that were true, my no wrap brisket would be the same smoke flavor as my 7-hour wrap brisket. But it's not. There's more smoke in my no wrap. The reason I like no wrap is because the bark, guys, the bark is just money. It gets way darker. It gets way firmer. And then the secret to it is when you put it in the foil with the beef tallow and wrap it up, it starts to steam itself in there, not braise itself. That's the difference. That's where people go left on a foil boat because they foil boat it too soon. This is my opinion. If you boat in the stall, your brisket's going to pump out all that moisture in the stall in your boat, and then you're going to braise a brisket. You're going to make pot roast. You don't want, well, that's the point on the foil boat. But my point on the overarching point on the foil is once you wrap your brisket, it starts to pump and steam and it softens up that bark, and then it sits in that warmer for 12 hours. And so when it comes out, it's hard to beat. It is so hard to beat. It's beautiful. So that's it, guys. That is the process. I'll say this, and then I'm going to blow out of this podcast. I'm going to do a video on this. I don't know if it's going to be an official master class, but it's going to be up there as far as data, content, and visuals, just to help you guys. This is a perfect time right now for you to tell me what's important. What did I cover that you liked? What did I not cover? What do you feel like you could have done without? Drop in the comments. Let me know. I am literally going to take what you say and build it into this video. And then I'm going to do a legit barbecue nerdville video on when to pull brisket. I'm going to run tests. 185, 190, 203, whatever. I'm going to go run tests for us. I'm going to go get multiple briskets, cook them, pull them at different temperatures, utilize the warmer, and we're going to see what happens across the board. This is the only way that I've learned to get where I'm at in barbecue is by doing this. It's just that the beauty of this channel now is that now I get to do it in front of you guys. This is all stuff I've done for 15 years behind the scenes. Now I just film it and do it. So if there's something you want to see in that testing, let me know. That video is coming up. And that's it, guys. I love you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for supporting the video. As always, Big Frizz, meet and greet. Over and out.